This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
You don't have to be a prophet to realize that we're living in historic times. Already 3/4 of a century ago, Rabbi Wasserman taught Klal Yisrael from the Chafetz Chaim that we're living through a period that the Mishnah says in Saita is called Ikvasa de Mashiach, the footsteps of Mashiach, the heels of Mashiach. Rabbi Chanan has taught us we're almost there, we're almost at the finish line. And anyone with even a superficial glance at the history of the world and of Jewish history over the last 75 years sees that we're living in remarkable times. Nearly every decade, a country empties out and the Yidden go to Eretz Yisrael. First, Iraq, then Taiman, Yemen, Morocco, Iran, Ethiopia. The fall of the Iron Curtain, where nearly 1 million Russian Jews come to Eretz Yisrael. The simanim that are mentioned in the Mishnah and Saita are quite compelling. And yet, we still cry out to the Ribono Shel Olam because we're not there yet. And we say, Avinu Malkeinu. We say, Ribono Shel Olam, Hashivenu Hashem Eilecha V'Nashuva Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem. We know you love us. We know you're showing us your love, but it's not like it once was. We don't have the Beis Hamikdash. You know, Rabbi Yoshev, Yahrtzeit Levracha, when he would daven the Shemona Esrei, he wasn't marich unusually, but there was a point in the tefillah that he stopped and he focused extra, and that is when he got up to the words Hamachazer Shechinasai L'Tzion, because Rabbi Yoshev understood clearly we still don't have the return of the Shechina, so we're not there yet. And to paraphrase the question of the Chafetz Chaim, Ad Mosayiyah Begoyla. What's it going to take? How do we get over the hump? That's very interesting. We all have our own perspective or attitude. What is considered an accomplishment in the viewpoint of the Torah? Like, what would somebody need to do to be considered successful or having achieved something remarkable? Perhaps somebody who learned Shas, maybe someone who founded a yeshiva or someone who runs a chesed organization. But it's quite interesting. David HaMelech. David was zoiche to be what is called the regel revi'i on the Kisei HaKavod, the fourth leg that holds up the Ribono Shel Olam's throne. Now, what did David do to deserve such a merit? And if you would have asked us, we naturally would have come up with many great achievements of David HaMelech. David HaMelech wrote Sefer Tehillim. David HaMelech collected the funds for the Binyan Beis HaMikdash. Kimat, the whole Psukei de Zimra is David HaMelech. Hallel is David HaMelech. There's no shortage of great achievements in the lifetime of David HaMelech, and yet the Zohar says, no. It was none of the above. That's not why David was zoicha to be the regel revi'i on the Kisei HaKavod. What did David do? David was insulted by none other than Shimi ben Gera, one of the leading Talmidei Chacham of the time. And Shimi ben Gera hurled at David HaMelech very sharp insults. And David was moichel him. He overlooked his insult. Says the Zohar, that was the single zechus through which David merited an achievement that only Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov merited. Would we have said that was David's greatest achievement? When we look at ourselves, we look at other people, and we want to determine, are we successful? I'm talking in a spiritual sense, beruchnius. What have we accomplished? We think about what we've learned, we think about the chesed we've done. But Chazal are teaching us that in the viewpoint of the Ribono Shel Olam, it's how we are able to overcome the insult and the pain that we feel we're on the receiving end of. If we're able to be moichel, that may be our greatest achievement in this world. Now, it's very interesting. Leah Imeinu, she has her first kid. Leah felt hurt. She felt she was second-class citizen to Rochel Imeinu. And she calls her first son Reuven. And the pasuk says the open reason for that is she said, Ra Hashem ba'ani ki ata yehavani ishi, Ribono Shel Olam saw my affliction. Now my husband will love me. However, if you look in the Gemara Brachas and Zayin Amud Beis tells us there was another dimension to why Leah Imeinu called her son Reuven. And that is, says the Gemara, she was saying, Ru'u ma ben beni leben chami. See the difference between my son, this little yingala, this little boy over here, and the son of my father-in-law being Yitzchak. His son was Esav. Look at the difference between my son Ruvain and Esav. You know what Esav did? Esav gave up his bechayra. He gave up the birthright. He sold it. He despised it. He didn't want it. He switched it for a pot of beans. And what was his feeling toward Yaakov? What was his attitude toward Yaakov? He hated him. He wanted to kill him. He was antagonistic. He was hostile to Yaakov. Hey, Esav, what do you want from Yaakov? You gave it up. No, even though he gave it up and he forfeited it, he hated Yaakov Avinu. But says Leah, Imeinu, look at my son. My son was the Bechar. And he didn't give it away. He didn't forfeit it. He didn't despise it. He lost it. Because of his misdeed, because of what he did to the Mita of Yaakov Avinu, he was Avad B'chayrasai. He lost the Bechar to Yosef. Now, how did he treat Yosef? What was his feeling toward Yosef? So Chazal say that not only did Ruvain not have hostility toward Yosef, not only was he not antagonistic to Yosef, Ruvain was the one whose loyalty and his love for his brother was so deep and was so profound that despite the fact that he was really going against the decision of all the other brothers, the pasuk says, "Vayishma Ruvain vayatzileo miyadam." Ruvain was the one who saved Yosef. So Leah Imeinu raises her hands heavenward, and she says, "Ribono shel olam, look at the difference between my son and Esav. Esav hates his brother, even though he gave up the Bechar, and my son is loyal, is loving, is close to his brother, even though he lost the Bechar." Let's study this for a moment. Do you realize what Leah is saying? What Leah is doing? Leah is prophetically scanning the entire gamut of the lifetime of her son Ruvain. We're talking about the son of Yaakov, one of the Shiftei Ka. His name is etched on the Choshen. You know, the Shla HaKadosh brings from the Mekubalim that the reason why we have 12 stitches on our tefillin is in the merit of the 12 Shvatim, Ruvain being one of them. Ruvain wasn't an Achrain. Ruvain wasn't a Tana. Ruvain wasn't a Navi. He was one of the Shiftei Ka. If we were to scan the lifetime of Ruvain, what act would we choose to be the highlight, to be the pinnacle, to be the act that really encapsulates and captures the essence of Ruvain, that it should be his name? Who could even imagine of the godless of Ruvain? And Leah Imeinu was a Neviah, and she hones in on what she considered the hallmark act, the pinnacle of Ruvain's achievements, the crowning achievement of Ruvain. And you know what that achievement was? That not only did he forgive his brother, not only did he not bear a grudge against Yosef, he remained close to his brother despite his feelings of hurt that perhaps deservedly he should have had. That was the crowning achievement in the lifetime of Ruvain. This was not our opinion of Ruvain. This is Leah Imeinu's opinion of Ruvain. So we see in the eyes of the Torah, in the perspective of the Torah, things are quite different than the way we look at others and the way we look at events. We may look at a great person and say, wow, they wrote a great sefer, or they founded a yeshiva, or they started a tzedakah. That's their crowning achievement. That's what we're going to put on their matzeva. And yet in the eyes of the Torah, the Rebbeinu Shem has a different viewpoint. And in the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and in the eyes of Leah Imeinu, the single greatest accomplishment in the lifetime of a Ruvain is the ability to overlook insult and to overlook hostility and to restore the love and the friendship of a brother. That is Ruvain's essence, that is his name, that captures his entire personality. There are moments in life when ordinary people, I'm not talking about tzaddikim, great people, regular people like me and you, are given extraordinary opportunity. And if this opportunity is capitalized on, it could catapult us to really the greatest of spiritual heights. Rav Pam would say over a story he heard from his mother, Rebbetzin Rochel Pam. who Rav Pam's parents brought up their family in Brownsville, and they had a particular housekeeper who came to help out with the household chores. And this woman earned a meager salary. And one day, an old lady comes to this housekeeper and she says, "Please, I'm desperate. Could you please lend me some money?" And this housekeeper had very little money, but she lent the old lady practically her whole life savings. She lent her $100, which was a fortune back then. And Rav Pam's mother said that unfortunately, before the old lady was able to pay back, she died. And Rav Pam's mother attended the levaya. And following the casket of this old lady was the housekeeper. And she was crying out, "I'm moichel you, I'm moichel you, I'm moichel the money. You don't have to pay me the money. I don't hold it against you." And, a remarkable incident. But what was most notable to me was Rav Pam's take on the story. Rav Pam said about this story, this is what the Mishnah means in Perkei Avos. Ein lecha adam she'ein lo isha. There's no person in this world that doesn't have their hour. Meaning Rav Pam felt that this was this housekeeper's finest moment. This was her ticket to Olam Haba. Of all of her accomplishments, of all her achievements, the ability to overlook something that somebody owes you, a wrongdoing somebody did to you, that could be a person's single greatest achievement in this world. That was who Ruvain was. That was the achievement of David HaMelech. For this year's event, in honor of the Yahrtzeit of Rochel Imeinu, I was asked to speak about the following subject: beyond forgiveness. Now, what does it mean, beyond forgiveness? Beyond forgiveness means that somebody could hurt me, somebody could insult me. The person might be close with me even. The person may have done it by accident, or the person may have planned and intentionally tried to hurt me deeply. And I'm bigger than that. And I'm going to get over it. And I'm moichel them. Every night before I go to sleep, I say, Harini moichel l'chomi shehichis v'hiknei roisi. I say, I'm moichel, anyone who disturbed me, anyone who angered me, anyone who got on my nerves. Erev Yom Kippur, I told the person, I'm moichel you, no problem. But, and this is the big but, the but is, the friendship, the love, and the closeness, it's just not the same anymore. You know how it is. So yeah, I'll go to the simcha, I'll go to the occasion, and I'll smile at them. But in my heart of hearts, I just don't feel the same towards them. We don't enjoy each other's company like we once did. We don't spend the time together. Yeah, you go your way, I go my way. No hard feelings, but the friendship, it's just not there. And the avoida that the Rosh Hashiva, Rav Shmuel Kamenetsky, felt so strongly that we should focus on this year is beyond forgiveness, of trying to renew our relationships as if nothing happened, to try to feel the closeness again just as much as was before. So I got my marching orders. This is the subject that I'm going to speak about, but I'll be quite honest with you. I was thinking, why is this such an important topic? Yeah, it's a beautiful idea, it's a beautiful concept, but is this really the most important thing that Klal Yisrael needs to work on? Is this really our avodah in Tavshin Pei Aleph? There's so many things that perhaps we could focus on. Why this? And then like a flash of lightning, V'Hashem Heyer Einai, it hit me that this just might be it. Here we are. We're already 80 years in a period called Ikvasa de Mashiach. We're living in amazing times. Klal Yisrael, the Rebbeinu Shem, has been gathering us back to Eretz Yisrael. We see the flourishing of the Torah world. We experience the Siyam Hashas. And yet, we feel like we're almost there, but we hit a hump. What's it going to take to get over that hump? You know, I once heard from a great Rav, Rabbi Isaac Bernstein. Mashiach is compared to ani v'roichev al chamar, to a poor man who rides on a donkey. Why is Mashiach like a poor man who rides on a donkey? So a donkey, you could take that donkey for miles and miles and miles. And right before you get to the destination, the donkey may crouch down and sit, and there's nothing that's gonna budge that donkey. You don't know how to move it. It's just one more inch, but he's not going anywhere. It's the same thing with Mashiach. We're almost there. We're 80 years, Ikvasa de Mashiach. We're almost at the finish line. We just have to figure out how to cross it. What's it going to take? What's that zechus that we need? If you had to describe what exactly is it that we need from the Ribbon Shalom, in 3 words, what do we want from the Ribbon Shalom? Ribbon Shalom, we know you love us. You're showing us your love. But nevertheless, we still want Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem. Ribbon Shalom, yes, you love us. But it's not the same that it was 2,000 years ago when we had a Beis HaMikdash, when we had the Shechina. We want to experience the same closeness that once was. How can we access that? How are we going to get that? How are we going to gain that? And Rav Shmuel, the Rosh Hashiva, is suggesting as encouraging us that the way we interact with our family and the way we interact with our friends and the way we treat each other is how the Ribbon Shalom is going to respond in kind. If we have someone that may have insulted us, that may have hurt us, that didn't include us, that purposely tried to hurt us and they did so deeply, if we're able to say to them, not only do I forgive you, not only am I moichel you, not only do I not hold it against you, but Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem. It never happened. It's nothing. It's not a big deal. I love you just like I love you. We're going to be friends like we were always friends. I'm going to dance with you at my chasana. I'm going to dance at your chasana. I'm going to enjoy your company. I'm going to speak with you, converse with you, schmooze with you like nothing ever happened. I'll do better than that. I'm going to be closer with you than I was originally. If we're able to tell our husbands, our wives, our brothers, our sisters, our parents, maybe our Rav, maybe our Rebbe, our neighbor, if we're able to say, Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem, not only am I moichel you, but I'm going to renew my closeness with you like nothing happened, then of course the Ribbon Shalom will respond in kind. So Reuven comes home one day, and Leah says to Reuven, what do you got? What is that? Is that a bouquet of flowers? Reuven said, no, these are dudaim. These are special herbs. They say it aids fertility. So Leah takes them, and Rochel sees. And Rochel says to Leah, would you mind sharing with me some of your dudaim? And Leah speaks very sharply to Rochel. Leah says to Rochel, Hama'ad kachtech es ishi. It's bad enough you took my husband. Now you're going to take the dudaim of my son? You stole my husband, you took my husband, now you want to take my dudaim? Wait a second, Leah. Could you repeat that? I mean, if we were Rachel, what would we say to Leah? Excuse me? I took your husband? Can I refresh your memory for a moment? Remember, Leah? You were destined to marry the red guy, Esav. You were supposed to marry him. And out of the goodness of my heart, I gave you the simanim. Do you remember that? Or you have a short-term memory, Leah? How dare you have the chutzpah to say to me that I took your husband, I'm the one who gave you him for whatever you have him for. How could you say this to me? Is that how Rachel responds? No. Rachel says, Leah, you're right. My dear sister, you're right. He's all yours. He belongs to you. So you know what? Let's make a little trade. We'll make a little chalipin. I'll take the dudaim and I will give you Yaakov for the day. The sterling quality of Rochel Imeinu, it almost boggles the mind. Rochel doesn't say, how dare you? Rochel doesn't say anything other than, you're right, so let's make a trade. But here's the $1 million question. How could Leah bring herself to say to Rochel, you took my husband? Leah pulled that off with a straight face. She said to Rochel, you took my husband? Did Leah forget? Says Reb Shalom Shvadran, we see from the simple reading of the psukim that actually Rochel never told Leah that she was giving over the simanim. She never told her she was giving simanim. she nonchalantly, casually slipped the simanim in the course of conversation, where Leah never even realized that Rochel was giving it to her. Because the Asakenimi Bali Atoisva says, what were these simanim? These are the three halachos that are incumbent upon a woman. Nida, chala, v'hadlakas haner. So Rochel has a conversation with Leah one day. She says, Leah, one day you're going to get married, and you're going to have to know certain halachos. Here they are. Your chazan might even give you a little test, a little farher, a little bechina on this one day. So just, be fluent in these halachos. And Leah never knew that Rochel gave over the simanim. And therefore Leah says, he's my husband. I married him. You came in second. And what does Rochel say? Rochel is not hostile. Rochel is not angry. Rochel humbly says, Nachon, you're correct. He's yours. And I'm not going to tell you one word that I gave you the simanim. And not only am I not going to have kina or kas or anger, I love you like when we were young children, Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem. And that's why it's in the merit of Rochel that one day the Rebbeinu Shalom is going to say to Klal Yisrael, yes, Ched HaEgel and Ched HaMeraglim and Sinas Chinam and whatever other Chatoim, I love you, Kekedem, like nothing ever happened. In whose merit could the Rebbeinu Shalom say that to us? Only in the merit of Rochel Imeinu. That's how she treated Leah, and that's how the Rebbeinu Shalom is going to respond in kind to Klal Yisrael. So you say, how in the world does a human being reach such a madriga? And the answer is, this is the midah of none other than HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. Let's ask ourselves an interesting question. Who does Rebbeinu Shalom love more? Who does he have more affection for? Someone who was always, so to speak, on good terms with him? The tzaddik gamor? Or does Hashem love the Baal Tshuva, someone who perhaps at one time had a strained relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu? So we know what the Gemara says in Brachos. B'makom shebalei tshuva oimdim ein tzadikim gemur michaylam lamoid. In a place where the Baal Tshuva stands, even the perfect tzaddik cannot stand. The Talmud Devarim explains in Parak Aleph, in the 7th Midah, Yashav Yirachamenu, that the Rebbeinu Shalom shows extra ahava, extra closeness, not to the perfect tzaddik, to one who he had a strained relationship with, to someone who perhaps was not fulfilling what they were supposed to such a person, the Rebbeinu Shalom is ma'orer and engenders extra ahava. He raises them up and he has a special degree of closeness to. So if this is the midah of the Rebbeinu Shalom, then our soul, which is a chelak elakamimal, which has the imprint of the Creator, is programmed with the ability and the capability to draw from deep within the inner recesses of our neshama and bring up this divine midah, namely what we call beyond forgiveness, what we call Yashuv Yerachamenu, the midah of Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem. And we say to the Rebbeinu Shalom, here's the plan in 2021, in Tavshin Pei Aleph, when we are experiencing a time in our history, she'ein yoim she'kalasa meruba mechaveroi. Every day we seem to be descending in more difficulty and more challenging times. And we say, Rebbeinu Shalom, we know you love us, but we want to feel like the love that you had for us, mikedem. So here's the plan. This year, we're going to take one person. It could be a person who's related to us, who's very close to us. It should be such a person. We're going to take our brother, we're going to take our sister, our husband, our wife, our father, our mother, our neighbor. And maybe they hurt us. And maybe they tried to hurt us even. And it was intentional, and we were deeply hurt, but we were moichel them. But we're going to say to them, Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem. We're going to renew our closeness with them as if nothing happened. How can we do it? It's already in our neshama. This is the midah that we've inherited. We inherited it from David. We inherited it from Ruvain. We inherited from the Mama Rochel. And this is in our spiritual DNA from the Borei Olam. And when we could say to our friend and our relative, nothing happened, our love is the way it once was, it's going to be B'karov Mamish, that the Rebbeinu Shalom responds in kind. Hashivenu Hashem Elecha v'nashuva, Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem. May we hear those words, B'karov Mamish, B'mherav Yameinu.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.